Well, hello, my American friends. So last night was the Canadian election, and boy, did it not really mix anything up and also mix things up. I'll get to that in a minute. But we've got some returning champions tonight, like everybody's favorite serial blackface aficionado, Justin Trudeau, with a brand new blackface picture released on the eve of election night.
What do you think?
Oh, very nice.
It's very cool, Bateman, but that's nothing. What do you think?
Nice.
An interesting campaign strategy, but not as interesting as the NDP's Jagmeet Singh's strategy. Not returning from previous seasons, we have some new characters, like this Green Party leader I've never heard of, who it seems they picked to help gloss over their internal report about serious racism and transphobia. Then there's the the Conservative Party leader, Erin O'Toole. And then, of course, there's Mad Max, who is not just a new character to the season, but who brings an entirely new faction to the shit show we call Canadian politics. Really here to throw a spanner in the mix, the Populist People's Party of Canada, who are basically the Canadian UKIP, except COVID and lockdown is their Brexit. But before we jump into the battle results, I would like to thank our sponsor, Ground News, for making this video possible. The media landscape, as we know very well on this channel, is fundamentally broken. The press is financially incentivized to generate clicks, and typically they get those clicks by publishing the popular narrative, exaggerating, and in some cases just straight up lying. It's one of the biggest issues of our time. And that's why I am genuinely super excited to introduce you to Ground News, a website and app that allows you to compare how a single story is being covered across the political spectrum. You can easily identify bias of a media outlet and see how they are framing an issue compared to other news organizations. And one of my personal favorite features is their blind spot feed that highlights underreported stories on both the left and the right, so you don't get trapped in a feedback loop of content you agree with or creators saying the same things. If you're not afraid to have your opinions challenged, and I know that people on this channel are not, then please go check out Ground News in the link below. They're doing excellent work, and you can also get premium app access with the code SOUTHERN, all caps, like the location direction, not Western, Southern. All right. Anyways, back to the election. So normally the Canadian election would take place 2 years from now, but Liberal Party leader Prime Minister Justin Trudeau decided to call it early. Why, you may ask? Well, really, there's just speculation out there. Perhaps he genuinely thought he could pick up more seats now, or perhaps he wanted to get ahead of a economic cliff that Canada is about to go over. Either way, it's kind of undeniable that Trudeau has had a rocky time as Prime Minister, and you can only distract people from your terrible governance for so long by partaking in fancy but empty social virtue signaling.
It is exactly the example of the kinds of things you need to do to counter the she-cession and turn it into a she-covery.
Inflation is at its highest rate in over a decade in Canada. The average home in Canada costs like twice as much as it did 5 years ago. Gun violence is up. Unemployment is through the roof. The country is more divided than ever. People are pissed off about vaccine mandates, or they're pissed that people are not getting vaccinated. And Trudeau has been one of the first prime ministers ever to violate ethics laws. So that's pretty cool. And yet, the results of this election are in, and nothing much has changed in the country. A Liberal minority government won, with Trudeau at the helm again. So how the hell did this happen, Lauren? So as mentioned in the opening, Canada has 5 main parties. Stay with me here, Americans. I know it's getting complicated. If it makes it easier, we only have 2 that actually form government anyways. But the others still kind of matter. So here they are. The Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDP, the Green Party, and the new addition, PPC. I just realized I completely forgot the French existed in the Bloc Québécois, but we're just gonna pretend they don't exist for the purpose of this video, because that is a whole nother drama and lore to get into. So bye, French. Sorry. Conservatives are like liberal lights. Liberals are like socialist lights. NDP are socialists. Green Party are, well, They like green things like nature and stuff, and weed. They really like weed, or at least their voters do, from what I've noticed. And then there's the populist, semi-libertarian People's Party of Canada. As mentioned earlier, with how trash Canada is right now, this probably should have been a pretty easy steal by the Conservatives. Pre-election, they were even polling ahead of the Liberals. But of course, the People's Party came in and just threw an electoral hand grenade into everything. Before, it used to just be the left in Canada that split the vote between three parties, frankly, the NDP, Greens, and the Libs. And all the Conservatives just went Conservative. And that's basically how Conservatives managed to win elections in Canada. But seeing as, even with that split, the Conservatives' last election were still losing in Canada, the Conservatives figured, I guess, for this one, what the hell, let's just become Liberals, with Erin O'Toole campaigning on a modern, reformed, compassionate version of the Conservative Party, meaning he decided to just support most liberal policies, like vax passports and the gun bans introduced by Trudeau. And to be fair, O'Toole probably genuinely felt he had no choice but to become a moderate liberal, but that being said, he still lost. The problem being, obviously, if a large group of liberal voters have the choice between actual liberals or a party pretending to be liberal and putting forward the same liberal policies just to win an election, they're probably just going to vote for the actual liberals. And that was what happened. No real votes were changed. This strategy did not win anyone over. As I'm looking at the results right now, the Conservatives actually have an identical amount of seats as they did last time. The only real shift that seems to happen as a result of O'Toole's strategy change is the Conservatives lost a bunch of potential voters on issues of freedom and lost actual hardcore Conservatives who were concerned with the party shift and decided to turn to the populist Libertarian People's Party. And while the People's Party did not win any seats, Bernier and the PPC got 4% of the popular vote, beating out the far more established Green Party in actual ballots cast, which, that may not seem like much, but that is huge for a new party. So the big question is now, and what everyone is going to be talking about the next while, is whether or not the Conservatives going more left-wing and the PPC joining the race to take the voters that the Conservatives lost, whether or not this actually lost O'Toole the election altogether. And it is certainly looking that way. Take, for example, the Yukon riding. The Conservative Party, in their new, moderate approach, booted Yukon candidate Jonas Smith, who took opposition to mandated vaccine passports. While Smith wasn't necessarily PPC, he had a similar impact to most PPC candidates when he decided to run as an independent and got 13% of the vote, costing the Conservatives their seat in that area, as his replacement, Barbara Dunlop, got only 26% of the vote, and the Liberal winner got 31%. So, if you do the simple math, had Smith not been kicked out of the party, it's likely he may have been sitting there with a strong 39% majority in the riding. Or you can take a look at Cloverdale-Langley riding in British Columbia. While I'm filming this, I'm just looking at preliminary numbers, but the Conservatives were around 17,000 votes, Liberals 18,000, and PPC 2,000, meaning, once again, had those PPC people voted Conservative, the Conservatives may have won or would have won the seat. And this is a trend that can be seen across the nation if you look at all these different ridings. And I personally find this all fascinating, as it gets into a much deeper issue. Some Conservatives will call the PPC voters here foolish, claim they were just voting for Justin Trudeau, basically. And I can absolutely accept that pragmatic argument and see the frustration there, but I personally do not see this as a vote for Justin Trudeau by PPC voters. It was a vote against Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives. The PPC were obviously not going to win. Maxime Bernier knew that. Everyone voting for him knew that. But they did it to send a message that no, you don't get to win an election with Conservative votes if you're not actually a Conservative. One tweet I saw stated, if 4 more years of Justin Trudeau is what it takes to teach the Conservatives they have to do more than just be the other guy and actually have good policies, then so be it. I will not regret my vote. And perhaps Bernier and the PPC are just another version of Bernie Bros, silly idealists that don't know how to operate in the actual political sphere. But one thing is for certain, They have ensured that there is some sort of anchor on the other end of the political spectrum in Canadian politics that really didn't exist before. That there is a group in Canada with significant electoral power now who can obviously make or break elections for the Conservative Party and who will not accept the slow shift leftward. And while these votes and, the whole PPC strategy is definitely a Hail Mary, there's no doubt it sent a message and has changed the landscape of Canadian politics potentially forever. And this is one thing that makes me a bit patriotic about Canada. I know not everyone will agree with me here, but I really like that Canada at least attempts to reject the idea of the two-party system, that there is encouragement on both the left and the right to vote for the person who actually earns your vote, rather than just the person you hate the least. And I'm sure all of this could probably be made better by systems like proportional representation, but that is a conversation for another day, and a massive one at that. Either way, I hope that this has helped some of my American friends out there understand what the heck your northern friends have been up to the last couple days. And at the very least, for all of us, Canadian American, even if the Conservatives lost the election and it's back to more years of Trudeau, the silver lining here is we've got a few more years of pure comedy from our good friend Justin.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2 plus kids' rights to not have to undergo conversion therapy.